The first expensive restaurant experience, having rich cousins and gluten intolerance. No, I haven't completely lost it there. These are some of the issues tackled in Donovan Goliath's latest one-man stand-up comedy show. Laanie looks at the experiences of a young man from a small town coming to the big city. It's on at the University of Johannesburg's Arts Centre tomorrow. And we're joined by you in the studio this morning. Very good morning.
Good morning to you. Thank you so much for having me.
Tell me about the show.
It's pretty much what you described without giving away too much, but it really is about, I come from the Eastern Cape, I come from a small town, and I don't think people talk enough about how we need to almost introduce big city etiquette when you leave a small town to a big city, because there's certain things that happen along the way that can be quite embarrassing for you when you're in a big city, when you're just not used to things like going to an expensive restaurant for the first time and being presented with halloumi and not knowing what it is, and someone tells you it's cheese, but it actually looks like fish fingers, and you just don't want to say anything. So essentially, I mean, that's what it's about. The show Laanie, Laanie is a South African term. It means boss. And that's I think that what we all want to become, when we come to the big city. So it's me trying to make my way, through all of these, various obstacles to become this so-called Laanie in Johannesburg.
And I assume you do a lot on your own experience.
It's always my own experiences. I think that's the best form of comedy. I do a lot of observational storytelling, and it's just, it's real. It's all real. I obviously fluff it up a little bit, just to add a little bit of spice and meat to the story, a lot more detail in the story as well, to put people in the position that I was in at the time.
And tell me about your company and the Three Goliaths. How did that come about?
We actually started Goliath and Goliath and made it a formal business when, at the time when we started doing stand-up comedy back in 2011, it would take about 2 or 3 months for you to get a 5-minute slot. So we created a comedy gig at a restaurant, which was really just a space for us to perform and actually have an opportunity, which then developed a cult following. It was called a Wednesday. It happened once a month on a Wednesday. And it just snowballed. We started doing about 8 gigs after that a week that we were running. And we started to formalize the company and, make it a business, which was a challenge in the beginning because nobody really puts comedy and business together in the same sentence. And we really had to fight through that and, beat the haters.
And talking of the haters, I used to cover the Edinburgh Festival a lot.
Yeah.
Excuse me, the comedy section there, which I just loved. What always struck out for me is how hostile people are when the comedian first walks on stage. They're kind of like, come on, I dare you to make me laugh.
Yes.
How do you get over that?
It's always very difficult. A fellow comedian, Dave Levinson, once told me that it's such a difficult job, this, but to make it easy for yourself, you always have to imagine that when you walk on stage, nobody wants to be in that position, so you ultimately have the superpower, but you have to be cognizant of the fact that people may have had a fight on the way to the show, some don't want to be there, so that's who you're going up against, and I think the more you put yourself out there, the more vulnerable you make yourself, the more confident you are. It often works in your favor, because people buy a ticket because they know what they want to get out of it. It's really just up to you to put out as much as possible. So there's no real formula, there's no real trick to it, because we still die on stage now and then.
And what do you make of South Africa's comedy scene? I mean, when I was growing up, it was non-existent.
No, I mean, it's absolutely booming. About 4 years ago, last I checked, there were about 120 paid comedians in the country, which was a lot. I don't even know how many there are right now. I mean, there are guys everywhere. There's so many new young acts coming up, doing their own thing, but crossing over from stand-up and moving into digital spaces and just creating their own little platforms right now, which is very exciting. I think there's healthy competition now. It's forcing guys to really work a lot harder to get the laughs out of people, because, we're also competing with a lot of streaming platforms now where there's so many specials out that you're being compared to international folk, you're being compared to people on Instagram, etc., etc. So I think it's great. I think it's healthy competition, but it's very saturated. Not as popular as it used to be about 5 years ago or so, but it's there.
Give us a little taste of your show tomorrow.
I absolutely cannot do that. You have to go.
Really?
No,
I want to say you heard it here first.
It only works on stage. It is a performance at the end of the day, and you need feedback from the audience to really keep it going. If I did that and it goes badly, people might go, oh, they're definitely not going to the show.
I have to force a laugh now. Sure. Okay, maybe it's a good thing you did. I look forward to seeing it, and best
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
It sounds great.
Really appreciate it.